Your vibration is naturally high, and there are a number of things that will pull our vibration down into the lower frequencies. And when you let go of the things that are weighing you down, your vibration will naturally raise back up. So it's just like if you had a buoy in the ocean and you push the buoy under the water, as soon as you let that buoy go, it will naturally raise back up to the surface. And so your vibration works in the exact same way. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the most effective way to permanently raise your vibration. And that is by doing inner work, shadow work, and healing. You see, all of us are walking around with childhood wounds and unresolved traumas. We're carrying these things around within our subconscious mind, within our bodies, our nervous system, and our energy field. And all this basically unresolved baggage is what's keeping us down in the lower frequencies. And there's a term called spiritual bypassing. So what spiritual bypassing is where you use spiritual practices like meditation or yoga or going out in nature and earthing or breath work, things like that. You use spiritual practices to get yourself into the higher frequencies, into a higher state, but you're avoiding doing the work, the inner work, the shadow work, and addressing your wounds and healing yourself. That's what spiritual bypassing is. So we don't want to be raising our vibration by using these practices and not doing that important work. There's another analogy that I've heard from someone else where it's like a hot air balloon analogy. So you have the hot air balloon on the ground and you've got sandbags attached to the air balloon that's keeping it on the ground. And as soon as you release those sandbags, the air balloon takes off. Think of those sandbags as your wounds and traumas. That is what's keeping you down. And then when you do the inner work, the shadow work, and you start healing yourself, releasing these wounds and these traumas, think of it like releasing these sandbags off of the hot air balloon. And then you'll naturally start raising back up, just like the air balloon. So this is why this is really important work. And what shadow work is firstly, we all have a shadow. And it's a psychology term that was coined by Carl Jung. And what the shadow is it's the hidden dark sides of the human psyche. So it's all the repressed and rejected parts of our personality that we're not even aware of. So by doing shadow work, you're bringing your darkness into the light. You're making the unconscious conscious. The idea is to become aware of your shadow and become aware of what your wounds are so that you can heal them and you can release your sandbags so that your vibration can naturally start raising back up. And when it naturally starts raising back up, you will have a better chance of staying in these higher frequencies by healing yourself and clearing out your baggage. So there's a really powerful healing technique that I learned from Dr. David Hawkins' book, Letting Go. And I've talked about this in my videos before, and that's because it is a really powerful healing technique. And what it is it's the reframe technique. So firstly, understand this, that everything in life is neutral. There is no built-in meaning. It is you who gives things meaning. And you can either give things a negative meaning or a positive meaning. If you give things a negative meaning, that's going to cause you to feel negative emotions. It will put you in a negative emotional state. Whereas if you give things a positive meaning, that will cause you to have positive emotions. It puts you in a positive state. So I'll share an example of this. Let's say we have one person that doesn't like dogs. So the meaning that they give dogs is negative. They think dogs are slobbery and hairy and gross. And then you have another person that loves dogs. So the meaning that they give to dogs is positive. They think they're loyal, there's man's best friends, they're really good for guarding the property. So there's no built-in meaning. Now, when a negative situation happens where someone's hurt us, we may have been cheated on or betrayed or lied to, whatever, a lot of the times we will give that a negative meaning and we will view ourselves as a victim. And so what the reframe technique is revisiting your past hurts, your past wounds, and changing the meaning from a negative one to a positive one. And you do that by looking for how this negative situation served you, looking for the lesson, and then you reframe it by giving it that positive meaning. So for example, I had a really difficult childhood. I experienced a lot of wounds and traumas, and even as a child, I noticed that I had a harder childhood than my siblings, and it would confuse me because we're growing up under the same roof with the same parents. I couldn't understand why my life was more difficult than theirs, why I was having to deal with so much more shit, basically. And what I've realized now that I'm an adult and I've had a spiritual awakening, I realize that spiritual awakenings don't come from an easy life, a life of rainbows and unicorns. They normally come from pain and suffering. So I realized my childhood served me. It played a role in me having a spiritual awakening. My siblings aren't, they haven't had a spiritual awakening. They're still operating from that, shitty programming that we all get from, since we're born. And they're still, working their regular jobs and still very unaware about what reality really is and what we really are. So I revisited my painful childhood and gave it a new meaning. Rather than being like the victim, the poor me, why did all this crap have to happen to me and not my siblings? Life is unfair, everything, like all bad stuff happens to me. Instead of giving it that negative meaning, I revisited it, gave it that positive meaning that, well, all of this stuff that I went through led me to have this spiritual awakening, and I'm so grateful that I've had a spiritual awakening because I now understand what we actually are, what we really are. And so this is why it's a very powerful technique. This is how you let go of those past hurts and traumas. We do actually store trauma in the body as well, and emotions that also needs, we need to address these things because they also keep us in low frequencies. And so we actually store a lot in our nervous system. So this can be, it can be good to work with professionals in this sort of field with like energy healing and doing somatic breath work so you can clear out the wounds and the trauma that's stored in the nervous system, because it's basically like, energy stored that isn't serving you. So releasing all these, wounds and traumas is going to raise your vibration, but there are a number of different ways that you can approach this as well. And so you can do work by yourself, like shadow work and inner work and healing by yourself, but you can also link up with someone else that's, a practitioner, like a breathwork practitioner that can take you through a somatic breathwork process to start releasing these, stored emotions and trauma. Another way to release stored emotions is, I've also learned this from Dr. David Hawkins' book, Letting Go, is actually using the letting go technique that he talks about in the book to release emotions. Because what he says in that book is that none of us actually really know how to deal with our emotions. And there are 3 ways that we deal with them, which is basically suppression, where we're suppressing them in the body, which isn't good. We don't want to be doing that. Expression, so even expressing the emotion, he says you still suppress some of it in the body. And escapism, which also suppresses them in the body. The letting go technique is where you have a negative emotion come up and you accept that negative emotion, you allow it to be there, you don't resist it, you sit with it, you observe it, you just allow it to be there, and the negative emotion will clear itself out instead of storing in the body. So that's a great technique, and I highly recommend reading that book because it will teach you more about your emotions and how to work your way up that scale of consciousness. Now, one more thing I wanted to share before I end this video is a number of different ways that your shadow can pop up. Because if you're not aware of how the shadow comes up, it's really easy to miss it. So some of the ways your shadow can come up is when you're judging or criticizing others, your emotional reactions when you've been triggered, that's your shadow coming up, projection, blaming, when you're blaming other people and playing the victim, jealousy, your dreams and nightmares, and trolling on social media. So it's very, beneficial just to be mindful of yourself, have that self-awareness. Meditation can help with that, and just start becoming aware of, when your own shadow is popping up, and then you can start working with it, start becoming aware of, your wounds, and then you can start healing them, and that will help you to clear out your baggage, get rid of those sandbags that are keeping you down, and then you'll naturally start raising up, and you'll be able to stay up there because your baggage will be cleared out, so it will stop you from getting pulled back down. So I hope you like this video and you got some sort of value out of it, and if you did, let me know by hitting the like button or write a comment. If you like this sort of content, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification. I'm going to leave a video here that will teach you how to do shadow work. If you're new to shadow work and want to learn more about it, it's a shadow work for beginners that will teach you everything you need to know to get started. Have an awesome day. Thanks for watching. Peace.